what social anxiety feels like. The constant pressure, the racing heart, the silent battle in your chest. Clinically, this pattern of fear and avoidance is known as social anxiety disorder, or SAD, and it affects millions around the world. Over the next few minutes, we'll explore four key reasons behind this. First, biology and genetics, the brain's alarm system running on high alert. Second, early environment, how our childhood experiences and parenting shape our fears. Third, cognitive and personality traits, the temperament and inner voice that keep anxiety alive. And fourth, cultural and social context, the pressures of comparison, conformity, and the world we live in. Let's begin. At the core of social anxiety lies our brain's ancient alarm system, the amygdala. In healthy people, the amygdala helps us spot real dangers, snakes, fire. But in social anxiety disorder, it can become hyperreactive, flagging even a simple conversation as a potential threat. Imagine your amygdala as a smoke detector that runs too sensitively. Every social cue, every raised eyebrow can set it off. Research using brain imaging, like functional MRI, shows that people with social anxiety disorder exhibit significantly greater amygdala activation when processing social and emotional stimuli compared to unaffected individuals. This finding was highlighted in a prominent 2007 review by Etkin and Wager. This over-responsiveness in the brain's threat center contributes to that intense fear and anxiety in social situations. But why does this happen? Part of the answer might be genetic. Although environmental factors contribute significantly to social anxiety disorder, research shows that genetics also plays a crucial role. Twin and family studies estimate that about 30 to 40% of the risk for developing social anxiety disorder is inherited. In one landmark family study published in 1998, led by Dr. Murray Stein, researchers interviewed relatives of people with generalized social phobia. They discovered that these relatives were about 10 times more likely to also have generalized social phobia themselves, another name for social anxiety disorder. On top of that, our body's stress response network, the HPA axis, can stay on high alert. Tiny bursts of cortisol surge into the bloodstream at the slightest social challenge, producing the same fight-or-flight chemistry you'd feel if you were escaping a wild animal. In short, your brain and body are doing exactly what they were designed to do: protect you. But in modern social settings, they often overreact. Up next, we'll see how early life experiences fine-tune this alarm system even further. Our earliest years are like clay, and the voices and experiences we absorb as children help shape the way we respond to the world, even decades later. Let's talk about parenting style. Imagine growing up under the gaze of a parent who is dominant, authoritarian, or overly critical. Every misstep feels magnified. Homework must be flawless, manners impeccable, and any small social slip-up met with a sharp reprimand or silent disapproval. Over time, the child internalizes a core belief: mistakes aren't allowed, being seen is dangerous. Prominent research shows that parents who demand perfection and control every detail tend to raise children with lower self-esteem, weaker emotional intelligence, and more reactive stress systems, and these parenting patterns are directly linked to higher rates of social anxiety disorder. Insecure parent-child attachment, over-control, and persistent criticism all send a clear message: you're not safe to be yourself. Moreover, twin studies help us untangle nature and nurture. While genetics do contribute a predisposition for anxiety, a comprehensive review found that environmental factors, like parenting styles, carry even greater weight in shaping childhood anxiety disorders. In other words, how a child is raised can influence their risk for social anxiety more than inherited genes alone. Add to this a home where feelings are routinely brushed aside. Stop overreacting. It's not a big deal. And the child learns that emotions are dangerous. Bit by bit, They tuck away their true reactions, becoming hypervigilant to every raised eyebrow or sigh, certain that any hint of vulnerability will be met with criticism. In contrast, an overprotective parent, one who shields a child from any discomfort, can unintentionally teach that the world is unsafe and that they are helpless without guidance. When small social challenges are always removed, the brain learns to treat every new situation as a threat. These parenting patterns tune the alarm bells in a child's brain long before they ever step into a crowded room. Beyond direct criticism and overprotection, there's another powerful way children learn fear, simply by watching how parents handle social situations. Children are keen observers. When a parent or caregiver reacts to a simple social situation, like a phone call or small talk, with visible worry or avoidance, the child learns, this is how you respond to the world. A Children of Twins study demonstrated that parental anxiety symptoms predict similar anxiety patterns in children, independent of genetic links, highlighting the powerful role of environmental transmission. In practical terms, if mom or dad avoids gatherings, frets over introductions, or constantly talks themselves out of speaking up, the child internalizes those strategies as the default. Over time, these learned responses become automatic. See someone smile, feel a knot in your stomach. Watch a group laugh, your palms begin to sweat. The parent's fear becomes your reflex. But the roots of social anxiety aren't confined to the family. Experiences outside the home, especially in peer relationships, can be just as formative. Beyond the home, peer relationships can leave just as deep a mark. Imagine being excluded from playground games, whispered about behind your back, or even physically pushed aside. Each episode teaches a child, I don't belong here, I'm unsafe among others. Large-scale studies confirm that children who endure bullying, whether overt or subtle, are significantly more likely to develop social anxiety later in life. And it's not only direct aggression, exclusion, mocking, and even jokes at your expense reinforce the core fear that social connection equals risk. Trauma doesn't have to be dramatic to leave a lasting imprint. Even repeated small slights accumulate, teaching the brain to interpret social cues as threats. So, through a mix of critical or overprotective parenting, anxious role modeling, trauma, and bullying, our early environment lays the foundation, or sometimes the fault lines, of social anxiety. Next, we'll turn inward, exploring how our own thinking styles and personality traits add fuel to those early sparks of fear. Beyond biology and early experience, our innate temperament and thought patterns play a crucial role in social anxiety. You know how some children just naturally tend to be more cautious or shy around new things? That's often part of their inborn temperament. In two longitudinal studies, Kagan and colleagues followed kids over several years. They found that 2-year-old children who were really held back or showed a lot of restraint in unfamiliar situations were often still quite quiet and tended to avoid new kids and adults when they reached age 7. They also found physical differences in these children, which suggests that inherited ways their brains react might contribute to this early shyness and could even play a role in avoiding social situations quite a bit later in life. Layered on top of temperament is the power of our inner voice. People prone to social anxiety often engage in relentless negative self-evaluation, constantly judging their every word and gesture. This can spiral into catastrophic thinking. If I stumble over one word, they'll think I'm incompetent and never invite me again. According to Clark and Wells's cognitive model of social phobia, these distorted beliefs maintain and intensify the anxiety cycle, making avoidance feel like the only safe option. In combination, a naturally cautious temperament and a harsh inner critic create a mindset where social interactions are seen not as opportunities, but as minefields. Next, we'll explore the wider pressures of our cultural and social context and how they amplify these personal vulnerabilities. Even beyond family and biology, the broader world around us plays a powerful role in shaping social anxiety. Culture teaches us what's normal and what's not. In societies that prize confidence, self-promotion, and extroversion, those who are quiet, cautious, or reflective may be viewed as lacking something essential. Cultural expectations can turn temperament into deficiency. Research by Hoffman and Hinton in 2014 shows that cultural norms shape how social anxiety appears and how it's judged. In collectivist cultures that value harmony and modesty, fear of offending others is a common anxiety trigger. In contrast, individualist cultures often push for assertiveness and visibility, making shyness feel like a personal failing. Then there's social media, a cultural force all its own. Constant exposure to carefully curated lives can distort our sense of self. A 2018 study by the Lancet Child and Adolescent Health found that higher social media use was strongly linked to poor self-esteem, increased anxiety, and reduced life satisfaction in adolescents, especially among girls. The constant comparison game can make anyone feel like they're not enough, not invited, not interesting. The message lands subtly but deeply. You should be more outgoing, more polished, more likable. When this cultural noise gets internalized, it can shape how we see ourselves in every social moment. As we bring all these threads together, a clearer picture begins to emerge. Social anxiety isn't born from a single moment. It's sculpted slowly, often silently, over years. For many, the roots stretch back to childhood. When you grow up in an environment where love is conditional, where mistakes are punished, or where your emotions are minimized, something fundamental gets wired into your nervous system. The world isn't safe. I am not enough as I am. Parenting styles, especially authoritarian, critical, or over-controlling approaches, don't just shape behavior, they shape the very beliefs a child holds about themselves. When a parent demands perfection or responds to vulnerability with irritation or silence, the child learns to shrink, to please, to stay hidden. But this isn't only about harshness. Even well-meaning parents who are anxious themselves, who avoid social situations, overthink interactions, or speak with fear about what others think, can unintentionally pass on their coping strategies. Not through words, but through modeling. Children absorb those signals. This is how we handle the world. We retreat. And so, avoidance becomes the blueprint. The first skipped birthday party. The first time you held back a thought in class. The first time you smiled instead of saying you were uncomfortable. Each moment seems small on its own, but they compound. And the more you avoid, the scarier the avoided thing becomes. This is the paradox of social anxiety. Avoidance feels like relief in the short term, but over time, it deepens the fear. It tells your brain, yes, that situation really was dangerous. It robs you of experiences that could teach your nervous system otherwise. Of course, not everyone with social anxiety had a harsh parent. Some had sensitive temperaments from the start, what psychologists call behavioral inhibition. Others were shaped by peer rejection, cultural pressures to conform, or the constant comparison of social media. Moreover, while early environment plays a powerful role, research shows that genetics can create a predisposition to anxiety, making some children more sensitive to stress from the very start. But what's crucial to understand is that these factors don't act in isolation. A sensitive child raised by a critical parent in a high-pressure culture? That's a perfect storm. A child with mild anxiety, but strong emotional support and freedom to express themselves. That can make all the difference. Biology, personality, and culture matter, but the early emotional environment often sets the tone. It teaches us either that the world is a place to explore or a place to fear, that we're allowed to be messy and human, or that we must perform and perfect. So if you've struggled with social anxiety, this isn't about blame. It's about understanding, about recognizing the invisible architecture beneath your fears. Because once you see the shape of it, you can begin to reshape it. And that's what the next video is about: how we heal. We'll look at evidence-based therapies, practical strategies, and the small but powerful steps that help retrain your brain, calm your nervous system, and reclaim your voice. Because the wiring can change. It always can.